recognize Mr. Palmer for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Dr. Hager, in the past, NITRD program has had problems with the way in which participating agencies categorize their NITRD budgets. Is that still a problem?
So thank you for the question. Certainly in the past there have been issues related to the question of what goes into the program component areas, the PCAs, which are the budget categories by which one measures the investments in the NITRD program. I think that part of those issues had to do with the fact that the PCAs historically were quite outdated, as have already been noted. They're over 20 years old. They, in many cases, no longer naturally fit the activities within the computing research field. And that's, in fact, why we spent a great deal of effort in our working group attempting to understand first how one would go about changing the PCAs, and also suggested a process by which they could be continually renewed so that there is a natural mapping between the PCAs and areas of interest within computing research. To give one simple example, we have a national robotics initiative, but we don't have a natural way to measure investment in robotics. So where would robotics go in the existing PCAs?
Do you, does NITRD, which is the main source of federally funding information technology, is there anything being done to ensure that there's not duplicate research that's being done in the agencies? Would you like to respond to that, Dr. Marzullo?
Thank you for the question. The way NITRD works is we have several groups where we have representatives from the agencies discuss their portfolios and review what is being funded. The details of this are published every year in our supplement, and much of the work in there is not only to avoid duplication, but to find ways we can work with each other, which is, I think, even more important. I like to say the secret sauce of NITRD is collaboration.
That's great, thanks. Dr. Hager, your testimony mentions the tension between purchasing long-term foundational research and short-term problem-solving research. How is NITRD approaching that problem?
So thank you for the question. I think it's important to understand that NITRD represents an extremely broad collection of agencies, including NSF, which of course is the Center of Foundational Research in Computing, and extending through mission agencies, including DARPA, NIST, Department of Education, and so forth. So NITRD, in many ways, is really, I believe, a convening ground where there is the opportunity to have exactly the discussions of the balance between basic research and more applied mission-focused research. And my understanding through discussions with NITRD is that there are a variety of conversations that take place among those agencies to achieve that balance. I will say the remarks were also directed to the fact that, as we were saying, computing research funding is sometimes challenging to come by, so one is as a young faculty member, very tempted to focus on concrete and short-term problems simply because one can get funding from the broadest set of agencies in that case, and that is the sort of thing that will advance your career to show those immediate results.
And this question can apply to all of you, but in terms of the short-term problem-solving research, is that something that the private sector could play a greater role in and leave the longer-term stuff to the federal government?
So one of the interesting evolutions in computing research that I alluded to earlier is that relatively few companies now have industrial research groups within them. So Microsoft is a perfect example of a company that still does have a research group, and it's possible to use that group really as a buffer between short-term and long-term research. I think at this point, because of where the industry is, it really is becoming more incumbent on academia, we're finding, to really have that ecosystem of both short-term and long-term research. I think we would welcome the opportunity to better support some of the shorter-term research through other mechanisms if they were available. But at this point, we don't see those mechanisms, and so you're seeing the community really fill that gap that has been created by the lack of industrial research groups.
This is fascinating and necessary work, and I want to thank you for being here today and one of the more polite groups of witnesses we've had. Thank you.